Hello, all. And thank you all for joining me today for another episode of Race for Safe, where we run from toxic into safety. I do want to tell you all thank you for being so patient with me. Thank you. As I pulled back, finished off my master's strong, traveled and walked for my graduation. So I just want to thank you all for your patience. I want to thank you all for allowing me to have a moment to pull back and enjoy the moment for myself, as I've always come on and try to help you the best way that I can from my personal experiences. So once again, I just thank you and I welcome you in to another episode of Race for Safe. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into what I have for you all, since I have pulled back and had time to just sit and say, okay, Lord, we have talked about a lot of things since I started the podcast, Race for Safe, but what do you want me to tell your people in this season? And I love you all, and if you have been following me, you know that I love Jesus. Jesus played a huge role in who I am and is head of my life. So there's a shift spiritually, but there's also a shift naturally that is taking place. And my topic for today, for this episode, is from toxic to safe. There's a shift taking place. So today we're gonna talk about how we run from toxic into safety. We're no longer running towards what hurts us. We're no longer staying stuck in cycles that drain us. And most importantly, we are going to learn how to move forward from toxic places, mindsets, environments, and into safety, wholeness, and clarity. So the words that I have for you today are shift, pivot, movement, transformation, and liberation. The definition of shift is a change in position, direction, condition, or mindset, often sudden or noticeable. And a shift is internal or external movement. A shift is the internal or external moment something stops being the same. And in this episode, shift is when a person realizes that the cycle is not their identity and that they can no longer stay in a place of what is harming them. A shift is the awakening moment, spiritual or natural, where awareness breaks agreement with toxicity. A shift often feels like conviction, clarity, or discomfort that push you out of alignment with old patterns. So today we're going to shift. We're going to pivot. We're going to do some movement, transformation, and liberation. The next definition I want to give you today is on the word pivot. Pivot means to turn or rotate in a new direction while still being in motion. And this is what you do after you shift. After you made up in your mind to no longer remain in the cycle, that the cycle is not your identity, you have to pivot. And that is to turn or rotate into a new direction while still being in motion. And in Race for Safe, pivot looks like leaving toxic relationships or cycles, changing habits, environments, or access points, choosing obedience over familiarity, and rewriting your response patterns. It is not stopping the race, it is changing the direction mid-race. Many people shift mentally but never pivot physically or behaviorally, and it all works together. In order to run from toxic into safety, there first has to be a shift. After the shift, there has to be a pivot. Moving right along, after a pivot, there is a movement. So A movement is defined as a group effort or progression towards a shared direction or goal, ongoing change over time. And a movement is what happens when your personal healing becomes collective impact. And a movement is when healing is no longer private, it is multiplied. Others begin running the same race out of toxic into wholeness, and testimonies create momentum. So after we shift and no longer let cycles define our identity, and we pivot and change directions into walking into thriving and out of surviving, we go into this movement, building momentum. And when we do that, we end up in transformation. And what is transformation? A complete or dramatic change in form, nature, or character. This is where we begin to look new, put off our old self, and become new. We get out of those familiarities of toxic, of environments, of bad, relationships, and we transform ourselves, our character, into a new person. We develop from the inside outwards into what we want to be for the better of ourselves. And how transformation is the end result of sustained shift, pivot, and movement. We identify no longer rooted in trauma. Emotional patterns are rewired, spiritual alignment restored. Transformation also goes hand in hand with our nervous system, learning how to reset that nervous system, because you always knew what toxic was, being in a cycle, being in a toxic environment, engaging in bad relationships, and not being able to implement boundaries or have something healthy. So what do? You have to be transformed, and that's a reset on your nervous system, as well as going from something that was broken to something that lacked structure, basically, to something that is structured, something that is purpose driven, something that is striving and thriving and not surviving. And after we have transformation, we have liberation. And liberation is the act of being set free from restriction, bondage, or control. And when we think about liberation, it's about freedom from cycles that kept us stuck, silent, or surviving instead of thriving. So shift equals I see it differently. Pivot is I choose differently. Movement means I'm not done. I'm not alone in the change. And transformation is I no longer recognize my own life. And I want to back up just a moment to movement, because with movement it says I am not alone in this change. You are not alone. It is people who have gone through, such as myself, and that I can sit here and I can help others. It is people that are in it, and it is people who have come out of it. It's people that are going into it. So you're never alone, and don't be afraid to acknowledge where you are in the process of running from toxic to safety. Just know what the end result will be, and you'll go for living with purpose, on purpose, for purpose, because you decided to take a pivot and change directions, so that you can stop going in the same cycle, getting the same results, especially when it produces bad fruit. So now that I got all of my definitions out the way, let's get into our episode. First, we have to acknowledge the shift. If we're honest for a moment, a shift doesn't always feel peaceful at first. Sometimes it feels like things are being removed. We're stripped. Relationships are being exposed. What we once adored no longer fills us, no longer satisfies us. Our comfort is being disrupted. Patterns are being broken. And it feels uncomfortable, even painful at times. But not every disruption is destruction. Some of it is deliverance. Some of it is God pulling us out of what we kept calling normal, but it's actually toxic, loud, chaos, domestic violence, adultery, cheating and stuff. And we want to stay concerned in relationships, and it's not healthy. Or staying, in an environment, saying that, let's say that you live with someone and all you hear is, commotion, confusion, cussing, fussing, fighting, smoking, drinking, partying, and stuff. That is not a healthy environment for you to be in. So we have to set ourselves up for success and make a plan, strategize to see how we're going to escape from this cycle and into wholeness, into something different. And when we're running, what we're running from is toxic. When we say race for safe, we are talking about movement. But before you can run towards safety, you have to identify what you are running from. So what are we running from? We're running from toxic. And what can toxic look like? Relationships that drain you instead of nourish you. It's not reciprocal. You're pouring out but never getting poured into. Cycles of chaos that feel familiar but are unhealthy. Going off to the club and all you're doing is fighting. Just call fighting a good time. That's chaos. Or gossiping and drama. That is chaos, environments where you're always shrinking yourself, making yourself small to be able to be in the room, or so that others can make themselves more than what you are. And then mindsets rooted in fear, survival, or rejection. Let's talk about it. How many of you have been rejected? How many of you are just trying to make it through the day or day to day, in fear, of maybe losing, a roof over your head, or not being able to put food on the table, not being able to pay a bill, fear of being alone because you don't want to leave that toxic relationship, so you rather stay in it than fear of being alone and not having any spousal support. And last but not least, it's going to be emotional patterns that keep us stuck in the same place. Those are all toxic things that we are identifying to come out of agreement with, to run, to shift and change and pivot into a new direction so that we can get unstuck and walk into our destiny where we have nothing missing, nothing lacking, and nothing broken. And ways we run towards that it's many ways. Safety is just not physical, it's spiritual, emotional, and mental, and we have to take all of those into consideration where we're making a decision to get out of toxic and run into safety, into something new, something that we have never identified with but now want to become our new normal. So safety looks like peace that doesn't require you to perform for it. Relationships where you don't have to beg for love or clarity. It's reciprocated. The love that you give is the love that you receive. Environments where you can breathe again, where you don't have to be so uptight or lock yourself up in a room or looking over your shoulder. A sound mind, to where you don't have a million thoughts going on, or even not just thoughts but like negative thoughts, but a mind of peace, of great thoughts, of speaking life, over, yourself, over your situation, alignment with purpose and stability instead of chaos. That is what we're running towards. We're running towards safety. And once again, that is peace that doesn't require us to perform relationships where we don't have to beg for love, our clarity, environments where we can breathe, a sound mind, alignment with purpose, stability instead of chaos. Because this is what we need. Not perfection, but peace. Not hype, but healing. Pivoting from toxic ways to wholeness requires a conscious, actionable shift from reactive, fear-based patterns to proactive, self-loving, and integrated living. It is a transition from external validation and chaos to internal peace, integrity, and self-worth. And here's how we're gonna pivot from toxic patterns to new ways of wholeness. For example, we're going to shift from victim mentality to personal responsibility. First, we're going to acknowledge the pattern. Stop blaming external factors and recognize how you contribute to your own unhappiness through fear, compliance, or people pleasing. We can't be 25, 35, 45, 55 still blaming our parents for how our life is turning out, because once we got under our parents' covering, our life became our own. You have the power to change the narrative. I am sorry. You cannot continue to blame others for the direction of your life. And in order to reclaim power, pivot from giving away any power to external factors, drama, opinions, past, to establishing internal authority over your own reactions and boundaries. Own your shadow. Instead of denying negative traits, acknowledge your dark wolf. Acknowledge the places that you need to work on, whether it's fear, jealousy, anger, so that you can tame it rather than letting it control you. You bring it to the surface so that you can deal with it, so it can be healed and no longer a wound and no longer something that's able to trigger you. That is how you shift. That's how you pivot. You have to not allow your toxicity to control you. Next, you shift from fixing others to healing yourself. Prioritize your inner work. True transformation starts from the inside out. Trying to change others is a toxic cycle of futility. You can't sit and try to change others because I can fix them. How can you fix somebody when you can't fix yourself? That's like me sitting up here doing these podcasts, is trying to fix you all, and behind closed doors I'm still dealing with domestic violence. I'm still putting up with low self-esteem, not knowing my worth, letting people treat me however they want to treat me, living in a toxic environment. Like, no. I know it may be some people who don't live or practice the lifestyle that they portray on platforms, but I'm not that person. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you how to fix you if I don't even know how to fix me, if I haven't fixed me. It took me many years to escape domestic violence. It took me many years to learn my self-worth and knowing that having babies is not going to keep, a person. It's not going to make a person respect you anymore. You have to love you. You teach people how to treat you. You treat people the way that you want to be treated, but you also have to treat yourself with self-love. Do you respect yourself? Do you honor yourself? Do you value yourself? How do you view you? How do you carry yourself? Do you take care of yourself? Do you date yourself? Do you reward yourself? Do you buy your own self gifts? If you're not loving you, how can you expect anything or anyone to do the same? We teach people how to treat us. Moving right along. When we pivot into wholeness, we also shift from chaos to healthy boundaries. We have to set firm boundaries, learn to say no, and detach emotionally from drama to protect our peace. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to give an explanation. You don't have to try to make the person that you're telling no to understand why you're saying no. No is a sentence by itself. No, I can't lend you the money. No, I don't want to have sex. No, I don't want to go that place. No is enough. And after you set boundaries, you have to choose support system. Replace draining relationships with supportive, emotionally regulated people who foster growth rather than insecurity. Yeah, that's changing your network. Getting a positive community, whether it's a church family, going to support groups, whatever it is, you have to change your network from toxic to something positive. You can still have a good time. You can either go to the club or go to a gathering to where you guys are maybe writing scriptures or drawing, painting over, club is drinking, shaking a booty and all of that, and somebody bump into you wrong. Now you want to fight. Now you go into jail. Now you got to get a bond out. All of that. Like, no, we have to set boundaries and learn how to navigate our pivot so that we can be transformed and walk in wholeness. And another thing that we do to pivot into wholeness is shift from fear-based action to conscious choice. We have to stop reacting. Instead of impulse reacting to stress, taking a pause to respond with clarity and intention. Sometimes we got to pull back. We react out of our fear, our emotions, lack of sleep, our stress. We act off of impulse. Let's just say, you need a bill paid, and sometimes you don't get paid until the next day, but yet you want to take out a loan today because you just feel like you can't wait till the next day, and then you push yourself in a deficit. No. Or I love people who I tend to oversee many grown adults. I say I babysit adults for my work, and you have some that are triggered by the words that you say because they have not dealt with the trauma from childhood, and that is a reaction out of fear or out of neglect of love, and that's a wound that needs to be dealt with, because you end up taking things that people say out of context or pushing those people away that God has placed in your life to be your network, to be your community, to help you heal, to help bring positivity and light. So you have to stop pulling a geographic. Changing jobs or partners without changing your internal patterns will lead to repeating the same cycle. And I want to pause right there for a moment before I read. Focus on integration. Aim for harmony by integrating all aspects of your life, finding the balance between the noise and chaos. And I want to say that going back to stop pulling on geographic, changing jobs or even environments. I know when I was stressed, under pressure, needed a change, felt like it was everybody else and not me, I get up and move quick. I'll change cities. That is a toxic pattern. That is instability. And especially for us who have children, I usually would be like, hey, I don't like this situation. I don't like, this environment. And I would pack up. I would quit a job, move to another city, all of that. And it was instability. Fear. That's impulse reacting because of stress. Changing physical locations without internal patterns. Sometimes it wasn't, I'm not going to say it wasn't the environment, it wasn't the job, but I uprooted without doing an internal change. So when I did change cities and I moved and changed jobs, I still had the same issues because I didn't change my inner core, my inner man. I still had the same mindset. I still had the same toxic ways. I still had an attitude issue that, hey, can't nobody tell me nothing because my way is the right way. And I was getting the same results, and it was creating toxic environment for my children, and it was creating instability. So now I'm teaching my children how to operate in toxic cycles. And that wasn't good. I had to learn to deal with the inner before dealing with the outer. And that's just how God does us spiritually. He deals with our inner man before it is seen. The glory of him is seen on our outside. And wholeness is not about being perfect, but rather than being fully alive, integrated, and able to embrace your entire self with compassion. I need you guys to hear this clearly. When God shifts you, he doesn't just move your location, he moves your alignment. And sometimes he will let things fall apart so that truth can rise up, because anything that cannot survive truth was never meant to carry your next season. So if things are shifting, people are changing, doors are closing, it's not punishment, it is protection. When you decide enough is enough and seek to align with new things, that's when you break free and step into liberation. And what is liberation? Liberation is the break from participating. You're not just talking about recognizing toxicity, you're talking about leaving it behind. So even sometimes we may have the foundation of the shift, the pivot, the movement, but we forget liberation and leave it behind, because sometimes we might shift, we might even pivot, but then we'll go back to that same place, or we'll end up going forward just for a little while and then turning back because we don't know how to continue to move forward. But you have to have liberation and break from participating in toxic cycles. And liberation, what is liberation? It's the moment we say, I'm no longer participating in what I used to tolerate. So while I shift, I see it, and pivot, I move differently. Liberation, I'm no longer emotionally or spiritually bound to it. And without liberation, we can still recognize the toxic cycles. That's what we can realize when we decide to shift. We can talk about healing. That's when we talk about pivot. Even changing environment, and that's movement, but still feel internally tied to what they left. Liberation is what severs that internal tie. It breaks the connection. Strongholds are broken. I am made free. I am forgiven. Fear has to leave. That's what liberation is. I'm sorry, y'all. I got a worship song for everything, but that's what it is. Strongholds are broken when you make a conscious decision to press forward from shift, pivot, movement into liberation. Liberation is what turns race for safe into freedom, not just escape. Your liberation ensures that you're not just escaping from pain, but you're shifting to the get out of toxic, to being together, to being whole, to operating in healing, for dealing with the wound. You got to get to the core of the toxicness. You can move all you want to, but until you deal with the core, the centerpiece, you're going to continue to remain in the same place, same situation, doing the same thing. And liberation bridges spiritual and natural change together. Spiritually breaking agreement with bondage, fear, and cycles, and naturally breaking habits, access points, and emotional reaction. So it's not just God moved me out, it's God broke what kept pulling me back as well. And that's liberation. That's important because many people leave physically but return emotionally. And we don't want that. We want to be fully transformed in all that we do. So simply shift awareness, it opens your eyes. Pivot, action, change your direction. Movement is the momentum that builds your new path. Transformation identifies your change. And liberation is the old system loses access to you. So if I can encourage you on today, I've took time to seek what it is that the Father wanted me to tell you all. And if I could just share a little bit of my story with you, I was a teen mom, graduated high school as a teen mom, didn't know what next was, clubbing, drinking, smoking, looking for love in all the wrong places. Got into a relationship that I thought was going to be my forever, and didn't love myself because I was looking for love in all the wrong places and chasing behind things. So I accepted less than I deserved, and I held on to the relationship for a long time. Have you ever been with somebody who is secretly jealous of you? They think that, you know, you think you better than them, and it's not that. You wanted to win together and not. Sometimes we got to let go of the things that we want so bad, despite how bad it may hurt us on the inside, in order to walk into new beginnings. And I would let go, and I would go back, and I would let go, and I would go back. And I didn't understand why I would keep going back, but I would take the steps to shift, to pivot, to even make movement. But I never took the steps to transform internally so that I can take liberation and break ties with the old me and the old system, so that I could walk into my new. And my turning point wasn't when I had my first child. It wasn't when I had my third. Actually, I was a single mother of 5, but it was when I got pregnant with my 5th, when I said instability is not suitable for a mother with this many children. So even though I kept uprooting and going from place to place, city to city, I finally looked in the mirror and said, Lord, fix me. What is in me that needs to be changed? I had to change my mindset of, people owing me something. You know, that my life was like this because of my parents, and that my parents ain't do X, Y, and Z, and that, I'm a good person, so surely good will, come back to me. I had to change my thought process, be transformed in my mind. I had to transform my attitude from nobody can't tell me nothing to yes, I sit, I'll listen, in order to step out of toxic and walk into safety. I had to learn how to be content in whatever state, season I was in, instead of always moving. Sometimes we can't build on things, and we can't get certain things or get to the place that God wants us to be, because before God can even do what he wanted to do where you were, you already moved. Instead of sitting there and allowing God to build your character, mend your broken heart, heal you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, send your tribe to you. Yes, it hurts in the beginning when you make a decision that you're going to do something different, to leave relationships, leave jobs that you have established history and connection with. That's where that familiarity come in at. But if it's not serving you any purpose, if it's not producing any good things, good fruit, then you have to walk away from that so that you can step into healing and wholeness, from survival mode into thriving, where you have nothing missing, nothing lacking, and nothing broken. You have to love you. You have to believe who God says you are in order to break free from these toxic cycles. People love to sit here and talk about soul ties and, no sex before marriage, and if you do, and how you develop these soul ties. But how do you untie from the cycle of survival, of toxic, of bondage? You got to sever those ties and step into new. When I decided to make the decision that not my will but his will be done, look at it. If you haven't taken a scroll down my timeline and go scroll. Go scroll. I am a true living walking testimony. His story, his glory, not my will, his will, not by my might, but by his spirit. It wasn't me that was able to transform me. It was me who made a decision to be transformed, but it wasn't me who did the work. Cussing, smoking, drinking, having sex out of wedlock, being a teen mom, doing everything that you could think of. But one day, boom, got knocked upside the head, a light went off, whatever you want to call it, and I had to wake up. I can't keep living like this. You got to shift. And in spiritual terms, put your faith in action. Faith without works is dead. You're going to sit here and you're seeking for a shift. You're seeking for a change. You want something to move, and God waiting on you to move. It's okay. You got to go stay at that shelter, because you can't be shacked up. It's okay. You got to go stay at the shelter, because you living with him and his mama. It's okay. Go live at the shelter, have peace, and get the help that the shelter and the resources that the shelter offer, versus staying in a toxic environment that's detrimental to your life. Go stay at the shelter. No, it's not comfortable, but it'll put you in the right place, the right position to feel the pressure to shift, to pivot, to make the change, so you don't have to ever return back to cycle. You're in a cycle if you're living with someone. You're in a cycle if you please others. You look to please others. You're in a toxic cycle if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're in a toxic cycle if you put yourself down in order for others to feel fulfilled. Shift. It's okay. Go to the shelter. It's okay to stay at that job. I don't care if you work in corporate America. I don't care if you work at Burger King. If you're going to work at Burger King, make it your goal to own a Burger King. Stay in your lane. Run your race. Don't move before it's time. And when it's time to move, move. Some people get shift mixed up with, oh, it's a movement. I got to go. Sometimes you have to go, and sometimes a shift is staying in position long enough for God to work on you internally for it to come to the outside to promote you. How many times have you had a job where you left a job and when you were leaving, they were like, oh, well, we're looking at it, to promote you. But you was in your feelings. Be humble. Humility. Because you could be here today and here tomorrow. I have been up. I have been down. I have been homeless, living in my car. I've been in shelter. I've had a roof over my head. I had much food to eat. I had days, and well, I ain't gonna say days, I had months where all I did was live off a wick. Throwing the milk out before it soured because I ain't had no roof over my head. I was living out my car. Learn to be content. Trust God in the process, but shift. Shift. All things are new. Things can't turn around until you make a conscious decision that enough is enough. That you're ready for new. And if you're ready for it, then you have to put in the work. God will meet you right where you are, but you can't continue to say that, hey, I want to go to school, but you never go sign up for school. You can't sit there and say, oh, I want to complete my GED, but never go and sign up for it. And then don't sign up for it and don't put in the work and don't study, because that's what you're going to bear the fruit of. If you go to school, you sign up for it, and you want God to move on your behalf because you think you just, oh, well, Lord, I went and signed up like you told me to. No, you got to study. You actually got to crack open them books. You got to, put in some work. You got to make decisions of either I'm going to go to this event that I was invited to, or, I'm going to just stay home and study. I'm going to stay home and write the paper. You got to shift. You ain't got time to delay no more. It's okay if you got to work 2 jobs. I was a single mom. I had to work 2 jobs. Came home, kids tore up the whole house. Tore up the groceries I just bought. Had bread all over the kitchen floor. But I could no longer stay in a place, in environment, situations that no longer serve purpose, that no longer added, but just continue to take. Put in the work and watch God multiply it. You do your part, and I promise you, He gonna do His part. God will sustain you. God is a provider. God will never leave you nor forsake you. He will meet you right where you at. But you got to do your part. I don't play when I say my podcast, Race for Safety, where we run from toxic into safety. Why? Because I stayed in toxic way longer than what I should have. Way longer than what God intended for me to do. So I'm going to help anyone else that I can help, because you don't have to stay in it. How to get out of it is to change your mindset. Put your faith in action. It's all right Sometimes you start a new job, you get frustrated with that job, but you ask the Lord, Lord, you brought me to this job. You give me the strength for this job. You know what I need for me and my baby. You know what I need for me. You know what I'm trying to do. You know the situation and circumstances that I need to get out of. So, Lord, I put my faith in action. I ask you to meet me where I'm at. Because, Lord, I want your plans, your purpose, your will for me. Plans of good and not of evil. To give me a hope and a future and an expected end. The Lord promises a yes and amen. He's not a man that he can lie, neither son of man shall he repent. Have he said it and shall he not do it? I am Luke 1:45. Blessed is she who believes that the Lord will fulfill his promises to her. The only way that God can do it if you move out the way. You got to first go for and put your faith in action. And we're not going to be constantly talking about how we run from toxic into safety, because once we break free from toxic, we need to talk about safety and then what comes after safety and how we move forward. I love our connection, but you had Bishop T.D. Jakes, who had Women Thou Art Loose for how many years? And then he handed over the baton over to his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts, for Women Evolve. And I'm pretty sure there's something going to come after that. But you can't sit here and stay in this place. If you, Women Thou Art Loose, you got loose, then what's next? Women have to evolve. Women evolve. And a lot of people don't see the connection there. So if we race for safe, where we run from toxic to safety, and we get to safety, what we doing after safety? So I'm here for the long road ahead, not to just teach you how to break the cycle of toxic, of bondage, of survival mode, but we're going to walk into safety, and then what we're going to do after safety. After safety, we're going to find purpose. And we're going to pursue that purpose. And we're going to get to the destiny that God had preordained for us before we were formed in our mother's womb. I'm not just going to leave you out here like hanging. But you got to get serious. You have to get serious. You have to want to change. You have to not try to do it on your screen. A lot of people like to use, like they want to stop smoking, or they want to leave a relationship. Talk to the Lord about it and watch how he'll start giving you strategy. When you make up in your mind that you no longer want to be this old person, and you want to be new, you want to be different, you want a purpose in life, you want to feel like you have purpose, because we all have purpose, just talk to the Lord, and then watch. You're gonna wake up one day, because people ask you all the time, well, how did you know, or when did you leave, how did you know it was time to leave? Literally talking to the Lord, and boom, one day he gave me strategy, to a G. And when it's the Lord, you're going to know it, because everything going online. I know many people be like, well, the shelter didn't have no room. I'm telling you, when it's the Lord's will, the shelter that's being booked for 5 years straight, and they ain't never had an open bed, we'll have one for you. Been looking for a job 2 years and can't get a job, or because of your background, you can't get a job. When the Lord start giving you strategy, watch him open up the door. Because you got favor with God, you got favor with men. And if God wants you out of that cycle, because he know that you're ready and you really made up in your mind that, hey, I no longer can live like this, you can bet he gonna open up doors, opportunity, resources, connections. He said, I know a friend that stick closer than a brother. Strangers were my bestest friends when I was going through. And strangers still is. Because family and friends can be your worst enemy. The friends that you call family. Hello? Some of them don't want you doing no better than they doing. Some of them don't want you to ever make it out. They want you to stay stuck because they had to stay stuck. But when they was your age, they wasn't doing no better. Nope. Start talking to the Lord. Start moving. And God will give you strategy to get out. And when he take you out, don't go back to the relationship. And don't entertain what's not from God, because then you're going to end up with a counterfeit. Work on yourself. Enjoy your singleness. Walk in your singleness. And allow God. He who finds a wife findeth a good thing. And man who's searching for a woman, who's searching for his wife, behold, don't go out there looking for a wife and you know you ain't a husband. Period. So I thank you all for joining me on this live on today, where we run from toxic into safety. If you have a moment, take a scroll down my timeline so you could see some of my story that is posted. Learn a little bit about who I am and why I'm so passionate about my podcast of Race for Safe, where we run from toxic into safety, because we got to break cycle. And we have to do it off of our lives, so the ones that are connected to us, even our children, don't have to go through what we went through, and that they can see positivity and stability, so they know the right way of things. Women who got daughters and in domestic violence, get out. You're training your child, your daughter, that's okay. And men who are the abusers, beating on the women, and you got sons, stop it. You're teaching your sons that it's okay, and then they're gonna create a record for themselves. If they got anger, they got hurt, they got, rejection, get them some help. Therapy is good. Get the help that you need and learn how to love you. So when you love you well, you can love others well. And that goes for men and women. And if you don't know how to love you, you shouldn't be interacting with nothing and nobody until you learn how to love you. Date yourself. Treat yourself. Look in the mirror. Tell yourself you're beautiful. Say I love you. Go read your Bible and look up who God called us as his children of a royal priesthood, fearfully and wonderfully made, handcrafted by the Father. Learn who you are before stepping into relationships. I love you all. I pray that I will be back with you all next week. One thing I do want to touch on is I probably will be going live on YouTube. I want to say probably July, because Facebook ends up deleting the videos after 30 days. I do download them and upload them to YouTube, but I may be switching platforms either to solely YouTube or YouTube and TikTok, and see how that works out. But I will keep you guys updated and posted as time go on. I do want to thank you for your time on today, and you all be blessed. Until next time, see you later.